What's going on, guys? Hope you're having a good day. Today's article comes from Games Radar Plus, and we're going to be covering basically the Nintendo patent was apparently granted without a patent examiner looking at a single game. IP expert says hundreds of games could be affected by Pokemon summoning patent granted amid Palworld lawsuit are valid. Now, here where it comes in. We already know for the fact that this patent was solely taken just to basically tear Palworld apart. These mechanics were never invented by Nintendo and never existed long before that, decades in fact. Now, apparently when it comes down to vetting this thing, there's an argument being made that the guys working at the patent office didn't exactly look at the patent or look at other games to determine if the patent is valid. Reading from this article, vetting the reported dangers of the US patent recently granted to Nintendo regarding game and sound mechanics tied up in the Pokemon. IP expert and games industry veteran Florian Mueller reckons that the overbroad patent was approved almost entirely uncritically precisely because no other games were evaluated by the examiner. And this is true. We have games going back as far as 5 decades, as far as 1975, that actually have this system implemented into it, by the way. Legal and game experts have questioned how this patent, which presents potential conflicts in countless games where a playable character summons the described sub-characters in battle, was approved where so many games that predated show that such mechanics are not uncommon. So to give you an idea, if I remember correctly, in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, you could summon a drone, which would then attack your enemies on your behalf. While it may not be an organic creature, it technically is the same thing. You are summoning a sub-character to attack your enemy on your behalf. It is basically effectively what this patent is. Mueller, reviewing the examiner's references and searches alongside Nintendo's own disclosures, which point to a page on Pokemon website, suggests those games were never even considered. This Nintendo patent was apparently granted without a patent examiner looking at a single game, he writes in a recent article on Games Fray. And I can agree with that because if you were to do the surface level research regarding this type of thing, all you had to do was put in video games where you summon characters as a sub-character to fight on your behalf, and you'll probably find a huge list of them. Mueller targeted some interpretations of the patent, widely excoriated the fact by, widely, I don't know how to pronounce this word, excoriated by folks like video game patent lawyer Kirk Sigmund as an embarrassing failure of the US patent system, which suggested that it could be easily invalidated if push came to shove. Now, the problem with invalidating a patent, unfortunately, you're going to have to go to court to do that. And we know Nintendo is highly litigious, they've got a lot of money behind them, and they are definitely going to be abusing that. Invalidation is easier said than done, Mueller counters. He goes on to interrogate how and why examiners may pass over important references in a situation like this, most notably prior art, and why invalidations that may seem obvious to some observers like a person of an ordinary skill or art, as Sigmund said, meaning someone with basic working knowledge of the field, may not be a silver bullet in actual legal challenges. We mentioned that the United States Patent and Trademark Office has recently made it more difficult to challenge patent-granted patents. He says it also worth noting that if a validity determination must be made by a U.S. court, it will be put before a jury, most of the time by U.S. juries, U.S. juries are extremely hesitant to conclude that a government agency made a mistake. Here's where the problem comes in. My belief is that Nintendo has a guy on the inside of the patent office. They've either bribed somebody or threatened somebody with their ninjas to get some shit done. They've either maybe found the guy who issues the patents and we went through his history and maybe somehow have discovered this guy's got like a MIG switch or something like that and says, look man, unless you want your salary to be given us for the rest of your life or you want us to sue you into oblivion, grant this patent. That's what I genuinely and honestly believe. And the reason why I say that is whenever it comes down to business like this, for something to be granted like this means only one of two things. The people granting it were extremely negligent, or alternatively unethical measures were taken to get this patent granted. It's as simple as that. Either by way of duress or by way of some sort of a benefit. That's the only other way. That's the only way for this to actually happen. There's no other way for something like this to be granted. Honestly speaking, in this day and age, you're telling me that somebody who works in the patent office wouldn't do their due diligence when it comes down to something that's as broad as this. Jurors are routinely shown a video that portrays the USPTO as an omniscient and incredibly thorough. This video shows images of patent examiners in lab coats, jointly looking at something, how it actually works is that the patent examiners sit at a desk and have a rather limited amount of time available per patent application. To be quite frank with you, there's some idiot sitting behind a desk over there with stacks of paper. He just basically needs to read it, hopefully decide whether the thing is not conflicting with something else or not, and then from there just issue it, and that's it. Patent issued, done. It's not exactly I don't think it's really a scientific process where they go by and do all sorts of calculations and bring in experts from this field and that field. No. They just basically do the bare minimum because effectively it's an administrative job. And if you think for a second that they're not going to make mistakes, think again, they do. They're just banking on the fact that nobody is going to challenge it. And if somebody does challenge it, they're just hoping that the jurors be like, okay, fine, the government issued it, so it must be right. Separately, Mueller stresses that one can always view the threat level differently, but in principle, the concerns that others voiced over hundreds of games being at risk were valid. He reiterates that the claims of the patent, with claim 1 being the broadest and therefore the most threatening one, could become a hazard for other games depending on how the patent is enforced or interpreted. Mueller's argument reinforces the seriousness of the patent's approval. It sounds like an obvious overreach to many people, and Mueller himself points to games as old as 1975's Gunfight as arguable prior art for games with multiple battle systems, as described in the patent summary. But the US Patent Office didn't see it that way, creating potential creative minefields or legal burdens for other games and developers. In essence, its very existence is a danger. Now, the problem with this is, when it comes down to the Patent Office, you would think that the people working behind the counter, the people who tend to issue these patents, are experts in a broad and wide variety of fields. There's a possibility that they are not, because they are human. Maybe they have different departments who handle these things. Maybe you have like a video game department or a car department, for like motor mechanics or whatever it is. Just so that they can pull from the database and be like, hey man, look, there's no patent that exists for this stuff. But also at the same time, you're saying this is your original work. How do we know that this is not something that you've just stolen from somebody else and you're coming out here to claim that it's your own original work and passing it off as yours? That's where the problem comes in. My theory is that Nintendo has put pressure or alternatively offered some sort of a benefit to the person issuing this patent. And when it comes time for this case to go to court, one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to bankrupt the opponent who challenges these patents, alternatively hope that the jury rules against them, and if the jury doesn't rule against them, they will probably, in the background, given the way Nintendo is, I highly doubt that they will allow themselves to lose this case. They will probably find some way to interfere with the jury in some case. Because this patent for them is effectively a nail in the coffin of not just Palworld, but every single potential competitor they could have using this system. Think about it. Any game where you summon a creature that could be a replacement, a market replacement for Pokemon, will be affected by this, because Nintendo will enforce it and quite literally abuse cost process, in this case the patent process, to effectively eliminate the competition in an unethical manner. Whatever happens, we can only hope for the best, because the entire video game industry is quite literally being attacked by Nintendo at this point in time. Do like, do subscribe, do follow, do comment, all that other fun stuff. I have another video coming up regarding mods from Nintendo, where Nintendo is now attacking the modding community just to basically burn down Palworld. They are quite literally willing to burn down the entire gaming industry. Follow, subscribe, and I'll see you in that video, which is going to be coming up sometime soon. Thank you, take care, and then see you then. Bye.